At that moment, nobody knew that on the battlefield, not just a soldier was born, but a hero who would change the course of history. Colonel Michael "Hawk" Anderson's decision that night would determine not only his own fate, but the destiny of thousands of innocent people. NTHE blizzard was hammering the Montana wilderness, and the remote military outpost was wrapped in an eerie silence. Colonel Michael "Hawk" Anderson, Indiana, his 20 years of military service, had never experienced a night like this. The voice crackling through his secure satellite phone froze his blood. Colonel Anderson, return to Washington, D.C. immediately. Code Black assignment waiting. NBUT. What he didn't know yet was that this mission would become the greatest test of his entire life. NHEY there, friend. Before we dive into this incredible true story, would you mind hitting that subscribe button? It really helps us bring you more amazing military hero stories like this one. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Under his military fatigues, Hawk could feel the weight he carried. He was a decorated commander who had fought on countless fronts, from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Syria to classified operations in Eastern Europe, a man who had suffered numerous losses. His soldiers didn't just call him Colonel, they called him Pops, because he protected each one like his own child, earning 3 Purple Hearts and a Medal of Honor along the way. NTHE moment that encrypted phone rang. His life was about to change forever. "And Michael," said the voice, distorted through a voice modulator. "I know you. I know your family too. Your wife Sarah, your daughter Emma." The tone turned ice cold. "They're with us now." Hawk's heart stopped. This man who had survived IED explosions in Fallujah, who had led rescue missions in hostile territory, who had stared down death more times than he could count, now found himself trembling uncontrollably. But his Ranger training kept him standing. "What do you want?" he asked, trying to hide the vulnerability in his voice. NBUT. The most shocking thing was that the person on the other end knew classified details that only someone with top-secret clearance could access. "We want those documents you secured from Operation Nightfall, Colonel." "You know exactly which intelligence files I'm talking about." The man paused deliberately. "You have 24 hours. Bring the classified documents to the designated drop point, and your family returns home safe and sound. Otherwise," NTHE line went dead. Hawk placed the encrypted phone on his oak desk. Those documents, the classified intelligence files he had been safeguarding for years, contained information that could threaten not just his own life, but national security on a global scale. A terrorist network's operational plans, names of high-ranking officials who had been compromised, weapons trafficking routes that stretched across 3 continents. Everything was in those files. NHE carried the weight of impossible choices on his shoulders. What would you do if you were in his position? If you had to choose between your family and your country, NTHAT powerful hero had once been this helpless too. As the Montana blizzard intensified, Hawk drifted back to his past. It was 2011, and he was stationed in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. Back then, he had faced a similarly impossible decision. Taliban fighters had taken an entire Afghan village hostage, demanding the release of their imprisoned leader in exchange. That day, Hawk had to choose between the lives of his 8-man special operations team and 75 innocent civilians. NHE never forgot that look of determination in his sergeant's eyes. "Sir," Staff Sergeant Jake Rodriguez had said over the radio, "leave us behind. Save those people. That's what we signed up for." NTHE choice he made that day had earned him the Medal of Honor and made him a legend in special operations circles. But today, NTHE whined outside, howled like a banshee, rattling the reinforced windows of the command center. Through the frost-covered glass, Hawk could see the lights of Fort Harrison flickering in the distance like dying stars. Each light represented a soldier under his command, young men and women who had volunteered to serve their country, who trusted him with their lives. How could he betray that trust? NBUT. Then there was Sarah, his college sweetheart, who had waded through 3 deployments, who had held down the home front while he was fighting overseas. And Emma, his 16-year-old daughter who still believed her dad could fix anything wrong in the world, who wore his old dog tags to school for good luck on test days. This is exactly where everything changed. Someone knocked on his office door. 3 short raps, pause, 2 more. The coded knock made Hawk's hand instinctively move to his sidearm. Who could know that signal at this hour? He checked his security monitor and saw a young woman standing in the hallway, soaked from the storm. Her eyes looked haunted, her face bearing the telltale signs of someone who had seen too much. "Colonel Anderson," the woman said when he opened the door, her voice trembling from cold and fear. "I'm Detective Lisa Martinez, NCIS. My partner was Marine Captain David Chen. They killed him because he discovered the truth about Operation Nightfall." Hawk quickly pulled her inside, his mind racing. NCIS involvement meant this conspiracy reached much higher than he had imagined. What Detective Martinez told him over the next hour confirmed his worst fears. This wasn't just blackmail. This was part of a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of government and military command. "They don't just want the documents, Colonel. They want you eliminated too. Because you're the only person who knows what those classified files really contain. You've seen the faces, you know the real names behind the code words." Hawk's training kicked in as he processed this information. Every detail mattered now. "How do I know you're really who you say you are?" Martinez showed him her badge, then pulled up photos on her encrypted tablet. Crime scene photos of Captain Chen's murder, classified emails, surveillance footage. Everything checked out, but in this business, trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. "You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet." Martinez pulled a manila envelope from her jacket. Inside was a photograph that made Hawk's blood run cold. In the photo, he could see Lieutenant Colonel Bradley Snake Morrison, his most trusted second-in-command and longtime friend, shaking hands with a man Hawk recognized from classified intelligence briefings. Viktor Petrov, a Russian arms dealer who was supposed to be dead. Betrayal. Hawk whispered, the word tasting like poison in his mouth. Now he understood the suspicious behavior patterns he had noticed in Morrison over the past few months. The late-night phone calls, the unexplained absences, the way Morrison always seemed to know about classified briefings before they were officially announced. Morrison had been feeding intelligence to enemy operatives for months, maybe years. NTHE's secure landline in his office rang, its shrill tone cutting through the storm's howl. Hawk looked at Martinez, who nodded grimly. "Men Colonel Anderson," came the electronically altered voice. "I trust you've had time to consider our proposal. Your family is comfortable, but their continued well-being depends entirely on your cooperation. Where are they?" Hawk demanded, his father's protective instincts overriding his military training. "Safe. For now, but time is running short, Colonel. You have exactly 6 hours to deliver the Operation Nightfall files to the coordinates I'm texting to your secure phone. Come alone. Any sign of backup, any deviation from the plan, and your wife and daughter will pay the price." Wait a minute, don't miss this crucial detail. As the line went dead, Hawk's encrypted phone buzzed with an incoming message. GPS coordinates in the Virginia countryside, about 200 miles from D.C. But something about those coordinates seemed familiar. He pulled up a classified military database on his computer and cross-referenced the location. NHI's heart sank. Those coordinates pointed to Camp Morrison, an abandoned military training facility named after Lieutenant Colonel Morrison's grandfather. The betrayal ran deeper than just selling information. Morrison had been planning this for years, maybe decades. "We need to contact FBI, CIA, someone." Martinez urged. "No." Hawk's voice was steel. "Morrison has contacts everywhere. The moment we make an official call, he'll know. My family will be dead before any backup arrives." NTHE's weight of command had never felt heavier. For 20 years, he had made decisions that affected dozens, sometimes hundreds of lives. But never had the stakes been so personal, so impossibly high. And outside, the storm was intensifying, but Hawk barely noticed. His mind was calculating odds, planning contingencies, doing what he had been trained to do since his days at West Point. But this time, textbook strategies wouldn't be enough. Here's where everything exploded. Martinez's encrypted radio crackled to life. "Detective Martinez, this is Agent Thompson, FBI. We've been monitoring the situation. Colonel Anderson's family has been located through satellite surveillance. They're being held at an industrial complex in West Virginia, not Virginia. This is a trap. Repeat, this is a trap." Hawk grabbed the radio. "Agent Thompson, this is Colonel Anderson. How do I know you're legitimate?" "Sir. Authorization code Delta 77 Charlie. Your wife's maiden name is Sullivan. Your daughter plays varsity soccer and wants to attend Georgetown University. You have a scar on your left shoulder from shrapnel in Mosul, 2009. Only someone with access to his classified personnel file would know those details." The FBI was legitimate, but that meant Morrison's network was even more sophisticated than he had imagined. Colonel Agent Thompson continued. "We've been tracking this conspiracy for 8 months. Morrison is working with a cell of foreign operatives who have been systematically targeting military personnel with access to classified intelligence. You're not the first, but if we can stop this tonight, you might be the last." NTHE next few hours became a blur of tactical planning. The FBI tactical team was 3 hours out due to the storm. Hawk had to make a choice: wait for backup and risk his family's lives, or go in alone and risk walking into an ambush. "This is the moment that defined everything. And I'm going in," Hawk announced, checking his equipment one final time. His sidearm, tactical vest, night vision goggles, and enough ammunition for a small war. But most importantly, he carried with him the fake Operation Nightfall documents Martinez had helped him prepare. Close enough to fool Morrison's contacts, but missing the crucial intelligence that could actually harm national security. "Colonel," Martinez said as he prepared to leave, "for what it's worth, Captain Chen always said you were the best commanding officer he'd ever served under. He believed in you. So do I." NTHE storm had turned the roads into a nightmare, but Hawk's military-issued Humvee was built for exactly these conditions. As he drove through the mountain passes toward West Virginia, his mind kept returning to a conversation he'd had with Emma just last week. "And Dad," she had asked while they worked on her homework, "do you ever get scared when you're deployed?" "Everyone gets scared, sweetheart. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing the right thing even when you are afraid." "So you're saying heroes are just people who are scared but do the right thing anyway?" "That's exactly what I'm saying." Now, driving through the worst storm he'd seen in years, racing to save his family from a conspiracy he barely understood, those words had never felt more true. NTHE most shocking revelation was yet to come. NHI's encrypted phone rang again. This time, the voice wasn't electronically altered. It was Morrison, speaking in his natural voice, the same voice that had shared countless cups of coffee, war stories, and concerns about their soldiers, welfare and Hawk. Morrison said, using his old nickname. "I'm sorry it came to this, brother." "Bradley? What the hell are you doing?" "What I have to do. You think this is about money? About selling out my country?" Morrison's laugh was bitter. "My son was captured in Syria, Hawk. They've been holding him for 2 years. 2 years of torture, of waiting for a rescue that never came because his mission was too classified for anyone to acknowledge." NTHE revelation hit Hawk like a physical blow. Morrison had a son from his first marriage, a young Marine who had volunteered for classified reconnaissance missions. If the boy had been captured, and Bradley, we could have worked together on this. We could have found another way. There was no other way. I've been feeding them information for 18 months, and finally, they agreed to a trade. Your Operation Nightfall files for my son's life. Don't you see? I'm trying to save my family, just like you're trying to save yours. And everything you thought you knew was wrong. NTHE moral complexity of the situation hit Hawk like a sledgehammer. This wasn't a clear-cut case of good versus evil. This was 2 fathers, both trying to protect their families, caught in an impossible situation created by forces beyond their control. "Where's your son being held?" Hawk asked. "A black site prison in eastern Syria. The same terrorists who want your files are the ones holding him. They've sent me proof of life videos." Hawk, he's barely recognizable anymore. They wanted to see if they could manipulate high-ranking military officers through family members. Yu and Morrison were proof of concept. They're planning to target dozens of military families simultaneously, creating a network of compromised personnel. Hawk realized with chilling clarity that saving his family was just the beginning. The real battle was yet to come. NTHE's story wasn't over. It was just beginning. NSIX, months later, Hawk found himself leading a joint task force dedicated to protecting military families from terrorist manipulation. Operation Guardian Shield would become one of the most successful counter-terrorism programs in U.S. history, saving countless families and preventing numerous security breaches. Morrison, after extensive debriefing and psychological evaluation, was given a chance at redemption through a classified program that allowed him to work with the FBI to identify other compromised personnel. His son, now safely reunited with his father, decided to continue serving his country as well. And Emma? She kept her father's dog tags, but now she understood their true weight. Heroes aren't born, they're forged in moments when doing the right thing costs everything, but they do it anyway. NTHE legacy of that snowy night in Montana. NTHE storm had passed, both literally and figuratively. But Hawk Anderson had learned that being a hero meant more than just winning battles. Sometimes it meant understanding that your enemies might be just as broken and desperate as you are, and finding ways to heal rather than simply destroy. Because, in the end, that's what true heroes do. They don't just fight for victory. They fight for the possibility that tomorrow can be better than today, for everyone. As Hawk stood in his office 1 year later, looking out at the soldiers training in the distance, his secure phone rang one more time. The voice on the other end was different, but the message was hauntingly familiar. "Colonel Anderson, we have your sister." NTHE war against those who would exploit family bonds for evil purposes was far from over. But this time, Hawk was ready. Because sometimes the greatest heroism lies not in winning the final battle, but in never giving up the fight for what's right. And heroes never give up. Not ever.